So I think this is, while this is an unprecedented time in terms of, there's no playbook available in general because nobody had a sense of this kind of change that would come into all our lives, both personal and professional. And yet one has to continue to ensure that the effectiveness and efficiency of the organization is realigned to meet the organizational objectives. I think it is a time for cutting out all silos and working collaboratively, cross-functionally. So if I give our example, about 14 days before the first lockdown happened, we set up a war room, which we normally have a conversation on a monthly basis. It was not a war room, but it was the same platform. And this war room actually in the initial few months was on a daily basis. It was cross-functional. It was called the cash war room because all business decisions were pivoted around cash and cash flows. So it was focused on one, zero-based budgeting to ensure that the spend levels are looked at. What is critical, what is good to have, what is discretionary. If it is not critical, you could look at a decision to defer it. And it had to come not from finance, but from the business. And the business need to be alerted and aware of the cash flow requirements of the company and what they need to do in terms of taking decisions. So cash war room was not about payments. It was about starting from commitments through to the cycle of the supply chain into payments. So I think it has worked very well. And I think the key issue was to raise the alertness across the organization on cash flows and spends, because that's the one which is under your control. The market and the demand is not under your control. You can create best of the products, but if the market shuts down, your customers have closed or deferred their purchases, then you can't do much about it. So the corporate spend part becomes very important. And for that, you need to have a cross-functional approach. So that's what we did, and we continue to do so. Just now, it's not daily calls, but weekly and bi-weekly reviews. So I think it is important that every member of the organization is alert on the organizational objectives. And if you say that the free cash flow focus of the company is X thousand crores, then you need to rally everybody around. So be it the procurement, purchase, supply chain, operations, some of the fixed overhead support functions, marketing and sales, and the entire ecosystem, even CSR for that matter, is to reorient to collaborate on that same platform. So that's the focus that we wanted to have and have been having. And I think this is a good experience not to let it go, so we don't want to let it go. Right? And this is like, we've created a digital platform where we use softwares like Tableau, etc., to look at real-time data. A lot of analytics goes behind it, and then take decisions on collaborative basis. But there is a cockpit where, for example, me and my colleague who's the CEO sit where if there is any conflict resolution or interventions to be done, then we do it on that basis. But largely a very, very cross-functionally aligned team. It makes it a lot more easier. And I think that is something that we are focused on. And we are very clear that even as things become normal in a few months' time or 6 months' time or whenever it becomes, this regime will not go away, and we need to maintain that, because the new lens of looking at business from everybody's point of view. It's so heartening when a supply chain colleague of mine calls me up and said, look, this is what we are doing in terms of managing supply chain, ensuring that the working capital levels are much lower than what we were earlier used to. We've knocked off 15 days of working capital. I mean, I think I think that facilitation role has played its part, and we just need to ensure that the good habits stay and not get back into older ways of doing things. I think it is important to drive by objectives and ensure that collaboration is understood by everybody. It actually is also a time when leadership maturity is reflected on decisions taken. There are many people, and say for example, an operations colleague would be saying, "I need this kind of inventory for ensuring smooth operations of the company." But at this point of time, there is a relook. They themselves come back and said, we would be able to manage much better without so much of inventory, and we are relooking ways in which we can renegotiate contracts, renegotiate terms, renegotiate payment terms. So I think it's a time where there are a lot of while there are a lot of risks, but there are a lot of opportunities, and these opportunities have to be leveraged. And the good habits or the good practices which have come in the last 6 months, I'm very clear that we cannot let them go, even if things become normal, and we should build on it. The other thing which has become very important is the one version of the truth, which is what the digital platforms provide. So it's very transparent and it's very clear as to what the key drivers are across the organization at different hierarchies. But there is no one who is keeping anything in the back pocket. It's out there, analyzed, and a lot of analytics behind what we do. So I think that's how we are managing.